All right, everybody. So I believe it's still setting up, so we'll give it a second. It says it's setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Let's see how this
This is
works
that
out.
awkward
This is that
time
awkward couple
before.
seconds, I think. Yeah. So as we go through this, let's just check this out. Perfect. We are live. I believe we are. Again, we're just doing this as our first run. So thanks everybody for being here. I guess we'll give them about 5 more seconds for people to catch up. But if you're just joining us, my name is Winston Bromley. I'm the communications director at Warriors Heart. And, you know, with everything that's going on right now with isolation and COVID-19 and everything like that, there's so many different feelings going around that we wanted to address them and jump on here. And I am privileged to bring on a good friend of mine. And Tom, I'm buttering you up here. So I wanted to introduce, if you don't know who he is, this is Tom Spooner. Tom Spooner was part of the U.S. Army. He's retired right now. And he's also the co-founder of Warriors Heart. But he really brings so much to what we do at Warriors Heart that I thought it would be something special to have him on here and do this virtual town hall meeting where we address a bunch of things going on and also just like check the pulse of what's going on out there, right, Tom?
Yeah, man, that is super good.
So thank you very much for taking the time to be on here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me on our show.
Very first inaugural show. Yeah, we're going to see how this goes. If you guys like this, give us a thumbs up right now and put hell yeah in those comments, okay? But hell yeah, we want to know you guys are here.
It's always good to be kind to the host, you know, and co-host.
Exactly. So anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself and let's go down that stream first of all.
Yeah, so the first thing that I want to talk about is, so we're going to talk about a couple of things, actually 3 things.
Sure.
So I'm gonna give you everyone a little update on Warriors Heart, kind of where we've come from, where we're at now.
Great.
Talk a little bit about how we always have been and always will be an essential service, no matter what goes on, whether it's a virus, whether it's war, whatever it is. And then we're going to get to some questions and answers that folks had already submitted to us. And hopefully we'll get to all of them, but we're just going to be on. We won't have time for all of them, but plus, you know how it is when I start talking, I get a little passionate. And
exactly.
So those are the 3 main things to talk about. So just a little bit with the update. You know, April made 4 years that Warriors Heart has been open for business, licensed, and had our first clients in. You know, since that time. We've had 927 warriors,
exciting.
come through Warriors.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
fantastic.
Amazing. And just talking a little bit more about that is that, and for folks that maybe I won't get into the full thing, but just so everyone knows what Warriors Heart is, Warriors Heart is a healing center, and it's for the warrior population. Now, warrior population defined is basically if you face life and death as a profession, you are part of the population or could be part of the population at Warriors Heart, and that's active duty, military, veterans, law enforcement, EMTs, emergency room, all of that stuff.
Corrections officials as well?
Corrections, everyone who handles, and is in that field. Absolutely.
Right. Great.
And so that's our population, and everybody understand. And we're the only one in the nation that handles just that population, because that's who we are and that's what we do. We don't try to be anything that we're not. And so that's our population. Whenever it comes to our services, it's primary diagnosis is self-medication or chemical dependency, and with a secondary of post-traumatic stress, mild traumatic brain injury, moral grief injury, and all the other kind of what they call co-occurring conditions from the professions that happens with. And so that's kind of our population. That's how we get folks in there or who need to come to us. And then we're a minimum 42-day treatment center, and and it's really kick-ass. And the thing about Warriors Heart, and just a little bit before we talk about it, is we all know that environment matters. right?
Mhm.
I mean, whenever you're getting surgery, everything that matters with that. But when it comes to healing, it absolutely matters. So we're the opposite of the hospital setting. We're 543-acre ranch.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It was an old Conoco oil executive retreat. So it's the opposite of hospital, and we do a bunch of different things in there. And
Mhm.
I'll kind of stop right there because otherwise I'll just
Sure. Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
on going.
Yeah.
And
We
then
can go
just
down the list.
one other thing was just
Sure.
like is the essential service piece is
Yes, please.
because a lot of people might not know, with everything being shut down, is that, we're completely open.
Mhm.
We haven't skipped a beat. Now we have had to, just like the rest of the country, we've had to adjust,
Right.
um, what I mean, to keep everyone safe, and to keep our clients safe, our staff safe, so
Mhm.
there's risk mitigation measures that we had to put into place uh, whenever it comes to that.
Mhm.
However, I mean, we haven't skipped a beat,
That's right.
and if you're in need, I mean, we're still here.
And actually, while you're on that point, if
Yeah.
anybody, I'm going to put this up, it's our colors. Now, this is very technical, especially in this world of what we got going on. So basically, this is our number that you guys can reach us if you have any, if you do need help, because that's what we're here for. It's 8666, sorry, 1-866-423-0801. So you guys can call us on that if you guys need to reach out. We're open 24/7 to those people who want to call and need your help, need help. We're there for you guys. That's what we're
Yeah,
here for.
and we'll put that, like Winston said, up front. The if you forget anything else, like a simple thing is go to warriorsheart.com.
Hmm.
That number will pop up,
Yeah.
and uh, and give our admissions team a call. That's even if you have questions,
Hmm.
and it's completely anonymous also.
Yeah.
So if hey, you're worried about like, well, I don't want anyone to know, but I do want to ask these questions, or you can always go with the favorite of, well,
Yeah.
I got this buddy of mine, you know, and that's cool too, but
Right.
don't hesitate to call and ask questions, to ask what the program is about, like
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, okay,
I
so
think that's a, I think that's a, I just want to touch on that one for a second, because that's
sure.
actually a common thing. Just because you call us doesn't mean we're definitely not, that hospital setting that's going to jump on you, go, yeah, call us, woo, we got it, this and this, ring the bell, whatever, for traction. That's not what we do. This is about really wanting you to be better. So if you just even have a question from, your friend has a question, give us a call. That's what we're here for. We're here to support you from the beginning process. And if you want to work with us, come on down, right? Like that's where
Yeah.
we're at.
Yeah,
So thank
and
you,
just
Tom.
so everyone knows about that number, it's not a hotline number, right?
Mhm.
If you're really in an emergency situation,
Yeah.
there's a veteran hotline number and 911. That our number is not a hotline number, but you
Mhm.
will get a compassionate, caring human being on the other end
Mhm.
that'll help get you in the right direction, and yeah, it's just they're awesome, awesome
Mhm.
crew out there.
And most of them have been through the same situation you're probably looking at right now in your life. In fact, some might have been worse.
Yeah.
That's how we roll, right? Like that is how we go. Okay, Tom. Now we're
Yes.
going to go back to a couple questions that came through. So thank you again for everybody who submitted questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
We're also taking questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them down below. We'll do our best to answer those, but we're taking precedence on the ones that came through first. So good on you guys, action takers. So I won't mention names,
Right.
but okay, so this one is, with Corona out there and states in lockdown, how can someone from New Jersey apply and come there? Because they're obviously in lockdown. That whole the
Yeah.
tri-state
Tri-state
area
area
is down, right? So
really getting hurt
this
bad.
one person was asking about that.
Okay, so just like everyone knows, pick a town in the USA and it's got its own situation.
Mhm.
Some places that don't have community widespread outbreak,
Mhm.
maybe they don't have any cases,
Right.
that they don't have any of the symptoms
Mhm.
because everybody goes through the symptoms test, then they
Sure.
come right in, and are in for observation, right? So
Mhm.
I'm kind of doing both ends of that question where it's like, hey, some folks, depending on where they at, they can come right in
Mhm.
to Warrior's Heart.
Right. Yep.
And again, if with the current situation that we have all these risk mitigation things in place.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? We of course follow the CDC standards. and all of that piece. But we always, like, our motto is like, hey, we always get to yes. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? No, no, we're always going to accomplish the mission.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's a lot of risk mitigation that we have to do, and that's what we do. So I stay on track. Is one
Yeah,
way
yeah, for
is
sure.
that whenever you, depending on where you come from, if you're come, lack of a better word, a clean spot, you're coming
Yeah,
straight in. Now, if you're coming, say, from a hot spot, up in New Jersey, and again, it depends on where you are there
sure.
also. But let's say now the other end of the spectrum is like, yeah, it's widespread, it's
Mhm.
totally hot spot. That's where once you call the admissions advocates and you talk through the process, the process will sound something like this, and that is that, hey, there's going to be a 14-day quarantine, but
Mhm.
maybe you've already been quarantined for 14 days. You know what I mean? So it kind of nixes that.
Yeah,
And so, but the thing is, and then, hey, you may have to have a test, COVID-19 test, before you can come.
right,
There's all these different. So the answer is yes, you absolutely can come.
right. Okay.
Depending on where they're coming from
Yeah,
and the location, then we have to go through all those different steps. So the
right.
answer is yes,
Yeah.
with mitigations in there.
Okay. I had a question that just came through. So
Okay.
this is another one. So thanks very much for submitting this, by the way, on our live. We really appreciate this. Again, first time we've done this, so we really appreciate you guys like jumping in and rolling with us. So this question was, does your organization take Medicare?
Medicare.
Yes.
No, we do not.
Okay.
No,
So,
now that's to my understanding. The
mhm,
thing is, and again, it kind of goes back to giving our admission advocates a call, because they have the 100% answer on that.
mhm,
Because there may be, because they deal with the insurances, they deal with Medicare, they deal with
mhm,
TRICARE, they deal with the VA, they deal with everybody on a daily basis. So a lot of times it depends on, like, there's even subsections of Medicare.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it all depends on your plan and that kind of piece.
right.
But what I can 100% say, and this is one of the things that makes me really proud, is there's not ever been someone not receive treatment at Warriors Heart
Mhm,
due to financial burden.
yeah.
Now, it may have taken us a while to get the money together, a little bit of time to get money together through different foundations, and Gary Sinise Foundation, Simplify, all the Tomahawk, all these different wonderful people that help out.
Mhm,
But, don't let finance in your mind be a barrier to entry
yeah.
at all, because we work through all of that,
Mhm. And
whatever
again,
we need to do.
yeah, you can reach us at this number. Give us a call. You never know what we can do. There's so much magic that we make happen. Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Tom. Another question. We have another one that came in live, but we'll do the other ones first because they came in first. Okay. On site, and you briefly touched about this, but on site, what kind of systems do we have in place to screen COVID with clients and, of course, staff?
Okay. That's a great question. So, and it's so awesome because we spent so much time and effort into planning, because
Mhm.
the beauty of where our backgrounds are and where we come from is, a lot of people have contingency or emergency plans.
Sure. Yeah.
Very few people have to actually execute those,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
so the good thing for us is we have a lot of reps, in living in contingency plans.
Hmm.
So at Warriors Heart, we had our planning process in place, and then we kicked it into gear,
Hmm.
once everything went sideways with the virus and all.
That's
So
right.
how we keep some of the things that we do with keeping our staff safe is by adhering to all the CDC standards, obviously, right?
Hmm.
CDC
Obviously, yeah.
standards, then Texas state standards. We
Right.
also adhere to all of those.
Which are pretty
But
strict.
they are, and then on top of that, we ratchet it up again, because again, we could really go by our own standards. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we utilize everyone else's, but then we add to our own. So every morning, when our staff comes in, it's a temperature check, it's the COVID screening questions, and also their staff's been, we've been at this over a month and a half now, kind of in this status.
Hmm.
So we've really got it down. Nobody comes to work without getting everything screened. And
Hmm.
then whenever it comes to the clients, again, we adhere to all the social distancing
Right.
aspects. We adhere to, um, all the screening pieces. And then recently, what we've started doing with intakes coming in, you
Hmm.
know, just for that extra layer of mitigating the risk,
Hmm.
uh, is that, you know, hey, they'll be masked up for the first 14 days,
Right.
right? Whenever they can't be within social distance,
Hmm.
right? So
Fair
that
enough.
way, you know, because one thing that I have a immense, and our whole team at Warriors Heart, we all have immense amount of experience in, is taking something that's super risky, right? Something that's super risky, and then putting enough risk mitigation in there
Hmm.
that it becomes no longer a risky operation. You know, we had to
Yeah, for
do it
sure.
in wartime, we had to do it during COVID time, you
Hmm.
know, and it's not, we're prepared for that, you know, and we,
Exactly. It's a battle, and we've got everything going, right?
absolutely.
Great. This was a question that came in through live, so I'll just do this really right now. It's a short one.
Sure.
How can those of us who are not part of the warrior community help you and help those warriors who are in need of your help?
Awesome question. So the thing to do is that, is help spread the word. So
Hmm.
the number one thing is, as much as you can talk about Warriors Heart, uh, share about Warriors Heart, and really educate yourself on it. So that's the first thing that I would say, is because really kind of, well, I mean, we're explaining a lot here in this live, so you'll
Hmm.
be educated after
Yeah,
this. But
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like, so that way when folks ask you questions, like,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, have you heard about that place, Warriors Heart? And they're like, no, what's it about?
Hmm.
So you can, so that would be the thing that I would say that someone can do, is like, hey, get educated, because you really become an advocate for us and a force multiplier. Yeah,
Hmm.
you know, and everybody knows somebody, you know, especially that needs this kind of assistance that we offer, you know, coming from those fields.
Right.
So there's that way of getting the word out, which is
Well,
the number one thing. And then the other thing that you can do is, we also have Warriors Heart, the foundation piece, you
yeah.
know, and then and through the foundation, again, the number one thing is just getting the word out, and then secondary, you know, when it comes to monetary donations, because what the foundation does, and it's the only foundation in the U.S.
Hmm.
that helps subsidize treatment costs for the warrior class.
Yeah.
There's not another one that does that, and the foundation was created out of necessity, because I mean, this population doesn't make a lot of money to begin with, right?
Hmm.
And then insurances suck, or they, and some
Yeah.
of them are good, some of them are bad, so there's always this mix. So that would be back to the question, so I don't get too far off track.
Mhm.
Is
No, 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 that's great. No, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, so for sure, as Tom was mentioning, you can definitely send people to our page, send them this video, right? Like there's going
yeah,
to be, this is going to be on our site for a while. It's tracking well right now. But I think the foundation, and I'm just going to do one story on that, if that's okay.
sure.
We have companies reach out to us who either want to do it anonymously or want to help out. We had last in November, we had one company come out, and US Elite, and they donated boots for all of our warriors on site, and all the ones up to a certain point. Like they donated 275 pairs of
Yeah,
boots. It was inventory that they had sitting around. So if you know companies, or you are part of a company and you have some sort of material that you can donate to us, like we take metal, we take wood, we take shoes, obviously, anything you want to contribute, that helps these warriors, our clients on site. Like it's an amazing magical feeling being on site and seeing these people from when they first come in, fighting the world, fighting everything, to the point that they get, on the end, they're preaching to their brothers and sisters on the way out, and they're like, yeah, you got this, man, you got this. And just seeing that transformation is something magical. And that's why I personally love working and being part of this family of people who fight for those who can't fight for themselves at the moment, right? That's how
absolutely,
I see
man.
it.
And you know,
So
and when we have at a, you know, we meet, it's what we always say, is we meet our clients where they are, right?
right,
It's
exactly.
so our clients, uh, you know, that come in, there's all ends of the spectrum. You know, on one end of the spectrum, maybe it's an active duty military member, you know,
Hmm.
who's still in the fight, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, who is still in there, just needs some training,
Hmm.
needs to get cleaned up, trained up, and back into the fight, you know.
Yeah.
So there's still, and within on the other end of the spectrum, you know, we have homeless veterans,
Yeah.
uh, you know what I
And
mean, and so who have whatever it is they have on their body, and that's all they have in this life. So it was, I saw it really hit, and this is in a wonderful way with I was talking to Matt Best, and we're giving him a tour of the place and everything. And Black Rifle Coffee, they've made incredible videos for us. They provide coffee out at Warriors Heart. They do a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
all
They're
that
part of
stuff.
the guys that don't ask for the promotion,
Mhm.
And but whenever Matt and I were talking, and he was like, man, we can provide some shirts and stuff too, and I was like, yeah, man, that'd be awesome. Everybody is like awesome, right? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, free shirts,
Exactly.
that'd be cool. But the thing is like, hey, man, with some of our clients, some of our warriors, that shirt is another
Hmm.
article of clothing they have,
It's a
right? It's
badge.
just not a cool
Yeah.
shirt to wear. It's like, hey, now I have two t-shirts instead of one,
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so we have that whole, and that's not a sympathy kind of thing, what I mean? Because
Not
we
at
don't
all.
want a pity party or anything like that, but
No.
but that is our reality, is yeah. Anyway, we both get
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
and talking
no,
about stuff. I forgot
exactly.
where
I
we
know
were.
it can get passionate sometimes. One other thing is like, and also like from and between the two spectrums, you also have police officers that are on site doing stuff, but they don't want to tell their upper command because they're going to get kicked out, right? Like, or
Right.
have issues, right? Like, there's all these things, and we understand that because we've been in that world. So we work with every type of warrior class. Like, you are welcome at Warrior's Heart. But anyways,
And
let's move on. Sorry, I
and
just
the
wanted to. Sorry,
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
the anonymity piece.
That's
You
right.
know what
It's
I mean?
really important. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to go back to a question that
Okay.
had already been submitted. We have a couple live questions, but those will be next. Okay, this one's a bit longer. I'm a firefighter who is having daily flashbacks of a really bad moment on the job. I numb the visions with cocaine right now, looking for help. Anyways, could you tell me a bit more about the electives and how they actually help with addiction and PTSD? So I guess he's referencing to our the wood and metal shop and also the
Yeah.
art shop as well.
Yeah. So, and to get into a little bit about the programming and everything, of kind of, that's a great question, because it brings up, it's like, okay, hey, what do we actually do at Warrior's Heart? You know what I mean? Whenever it comes to this healing,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because uh, the reason why Warrior's Heart is so important is because we do it completely different than the norm,
Right.
right? So the norm, and when I say the norm, meaning, hey, this was the avenues that I personally experienced,
Hmm.
and that is that in most places, they segregate it or silo it, right? It's like, hey, if you have your substance use disorder or your chemical dependencies, hey, we'll handle that over here. But don't be talking about that war stuff or the kids that died in the car wrecks. Hey, we're just talking about chemical
That's right.
dependency stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then if you happen to be at a treatment center or going to treatment for
Hmm.
PTSD or unprocessed trauma, what I mean? Hey, you're sitting there talking about that stuff, but then they say, well, when you talk about the cocaine or the crystal meth or the alcohol, that you're using, they're like, whoa,
Hmm.
whoa, whoa, we don't talk about that here,
That's
right?
right.
And that's not realistic, right? Because we're a whole person, so, and then you have the different schools of thought whenever it comes to self-medication and chemical dependencies. It's like, hey, does the unresolved trauma cause that person to drink and
Hmm.
drug? Or does the drinking and drugging bring up the unresolved trauma? Who gives a shit? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, hey, we're going to treat them both at the same time,
Right.
right? Um, so what we know is that, or what I know is that if if I'm struggling with a chemical dependency of self-medicating,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter if I do PTSD therapy. It doesn't matter if I go talk to the Dalai Lama. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If drinking and or drugging is my main issue,
Yeah.
until I handle that in the military, where I come from, it was like, hey, what's going to kill us first?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because if we're going on a target, we've got like, there's probably 100 different things that could kill us in a
That's right.
route,
Exactly. Okay.
So
Uh,
we don't worry about,
yeah.
you know, all these different things. It's going to be like, hey, what gets us first?
Yeah.
So that's, go ahead.
Okay.
Did you have
No,
something?
that's great. No, that's a good point to that question. We'll have there's a live question that actually deals right with that. So I just wanted to
Okay.
bring that up to you right now. So for Warriors Heart, do we deal with trauma therapy or addiction only?
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's right in there. I'm glad you I thought you were being kind of rude there for a minute, Winston. I was like,
Kinda,
why is he saying,
sometimes.
yeah.
I am the
And I know you always,
communications director, right? Anyway, sorry, go Tom. Tom.
so the, so the, so the thing is that, what was the question again?
Yes, I
Sorry.
know. Look at that. Look at we got off track. Do you deal with trauma therapy? Does Warriors Heart deal with trauma therapy or addiction only?
No, so the deal is that we deal with it both because we know that it's the chicken or the egg. You can't touch on one without touching on the other. So that's what makes Warriors Heart. That's one of the reasons that makes Warriors Heart different
Mm-hmm.
is that we address the chemical dependency, right? We
Mm-hmm.
make that has to be addressed. That's
Yeah.
what's killing us, right?
Yeah.
With that, so if we had to split the numbers, it's about a 60-40, right? So
Right.
60% of it is going to be dealing with what's killing us right now, which
Right.
is self-medication.
That's right.
At the same time, we're going to handle the traumas. You know what I mean? We're going to, they call it PTSD, they call it moral grief and injury. They have a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
names for it, but really what it is unprocessed trauma.
Right.
And how it affects me. So how Warriors Heart, how we go about doing that is number one in the curriculum that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have our normal groups, you know what I mean? Because we're governed by Texas state law of what we have to do. But we do it the way that no other folks do it. We treat both of them and how we treat both of them too. And in case anyone know that the standard out there for the chemical dependency industry is that
Mm-hmm.
you get one-on-one with your counselor a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Warriors Heart, we do 4,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's 2 of those are with a licensed chemical dependency counselor,
Yeah.
and 2 is with a trauma counselor, an LPC, right? So we're addressing both of them at the same time. So that's like the really tough stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the really where we're talking about the things that we don't want to talk about. We're doing EMDR. We're doing all these different things that address trauma. We'll call it from the, and I'm not terming this, it's called the top down approach, right? We're talking, we're using our brain, we're writing, we're in groups and all that.
Yeah.
What our electives do is we hit it from what's called bottom up. All of it is dealing with trauma.
Right. Okay.
All of it is. And so from bottom up, it means we're accessing our body
Mm-hmm.
to address the unresolved trauma. We have a wood shop, you know what I mean? And the reason why the wood shop, the metal shop, and the art shop is very good is because, you know, we've destroyed a lot of things in our lives. And we all know how the creative process, how healthy it is for the brain, you know, and we're doing all this hard work in the groups, in the one-on-one sessions, in all the writing and all the step work, you know, I mean, it's hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have that decompression piece, you know, and that's what our electives, I mean, they're a decompression piece, but it's also still addressing whether it's creativity or
Mm-hmm.
just getting some of that horror that I need out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And when another one of our electives, we got 2 sweet bass lakes, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
guys
Oh yeah.
just go
Yeah.
fishing, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So guys are out there fishing,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, whoa, I've never tried this before. And they kind of like it. Or other people will be like, man, I remember when I used to fish all the time and I used to love it so much, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so we have that good balance, you know, of the hardcore getting after it, you know what I mean, healing process, and then also the decompression, you know, and hitting it from the other ways, you know. And so back to that question
Yeah.
is yes, we deal with both of them at the same time.
Right. Good. Thank you. On the same topic, do you work with, this is a live question, do you work with addiction on a 12-step process or do you have your own system?
Okay, yeah, great question. So we utilize the 12 steps. We don't have our own. The only thing that we do, so the backbone of our programming when it comes to the chemical dependency recovery piece of it, the backbone of that is the 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we do out at Warriors Heart is an experience-based modality that works,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're not some place that is like, hey, let's try this kind of therapy, or hey, let's try that. Hey, we don't have time, you know, or the altitude for that kind of stuff. All that we have the ability to do is like, hey, what works, you
Yeah.
know,
Sure.
and that's like that's why we use that. It's been around since 1939. Millions of people
Mm-hmm.
use that process. And the thing about the 12 step process the thing that a lot of people don't understand about it, and a lot of people had this allergic reaction to it, right? They're just like, oh, it's a bunch of brainwashing, like you get all these kinds. I used to
Exactly.
think that, right? Before I got
When I
sober,
read it,
I'm
it
like,
was the same thing. Same thing.
yeah,
I
I'm
have the
like,
book. We had
oh,
the same questions. Yeah, I know. I
yeah,
know.
and then I was just like, oh, this is all just brainwashing, a bunch of cult stuff and everything, right? And then, yeah, well, I found out it wasn't true. The best way to that look at it and its actual truth is like the 12-step process. It's a vehicle,
Mhm.
right? It's a design for living. It's a way that I go from where I am at
Mhm.
to where I want to be,
Yeah.
right? Because tons of different places use that, whether it's Overeaters Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. Everybody goes back to that 12-step piece that,
Mhm.
again, it's work. People modify it and do whatever, but our job is to give them the foundation of the truth. So back to that question
Yeah.
is that what we do on our own is the other modalities.
Mhm. Great. Thank you. Just a side question, actually. Somebody was asking if, and this is for special operations forces, just bear with me. It's if a 5'8", if 5'8" is too short for special operations forces. We're taking all different types of questions tonight. So is
Five
that
foot
too
eight,
short?
man.
Five
I
foot
have
eight. Is it too
no
short?
idea. I have
Okay,
no
perfect.
idea. But the thing is all you got to do is, I'm sure there's like I mean, if you Google it,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's requirements. I don't think so. So my initial guess, but I mean,
Yes.
it's been, quite a few years since
Yeah.
I was in the recruitment place, but
Fair
it was,
enough. Fair enough. Okay, I just wanted to say we answer these questions live. So unless they're totally silly, we will answer them. So thank you very much for that submission.
yeah.
Okay, so going back to the messages we had from before that were submitted via email, and thanks again to everybody who did that. Hopefully you're on this call. And if not, you can watch this on the replay, of course. Let's see, are you still accepting patients from the VA? I really need some help bad.
Mm. So the answer is absolutely yes. So just talking about the VA for a minute is like,
Mm-hmm.
there's incredible people, as we all know, that work for the VA,
Mm-hmm.
and the VA is just so overwhelmed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not minimizing or making an excuse for them. I mean, I go to the VA, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and have to deal with that interaction at times. But one of the greatest things that has happened is the Mission Act.
Mm-hmm.
The Mission Act is the vehicle that enables, a VA to give a referral to a veteran
Right.
becomes the warrior's heart. So the answer to the question is absolutely yes. With that, you have to go through the VA's process, right? It's normal government stuff. I mean, we would love to tell you like, yes, come on.
Just come on
But
down.
the thing is that, you have to go through it. But again, it's back to the admissions advocates. Like those guys and gals can walk you through every process. Like if you have a question about the VA, like, man, I never registered, but hey, I'm a veteran and stuff. They can walk you through that. It's like, hey,
Right.
will the Mission Act cover this?
Yeah.
They can help answer.
Here's the number again. I'm just going to pop it up a couple times. We want to help, right? Like that's the only reason we're doing this town hall. So that's the number, 1-866-423-0801. If you have questions on that. No, that's great. And we keep having stuff come through here. So um, let me go back to another question, if that's okay. And
Sure.
in terms of the VA, the one I don't know if gentleman or female, but yeah, just reach out to us and give us a call. We can walk you through those steps and start that process. So okay, here's the question. Why is the Warriors Heart program 42 days long? Because I believe it's longer than pretty much the other ones, right?
Yes.
So
So
why is
the
that?
so the thing is that there's a couple of reasons. So before, like most treatment centers are, and you hear it, right, as 28-day program, 28
Hmm.
day program, 20.
Yeah,
Okay, why 28? Like,
yeah.
what's the
Where'd they
28?
get the number from, by the way?
Yeah, where'd that number come
Oh,
from? Is there so where that number came from
sure.
is insurance companies dictating the amount of that they'll treat.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So, well, it's just how it is,
Yeah, I guess
And
so. Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. Okay.
so the deal with Warriors Heart, right, is because we were initially a 28-day program, right? We were a 30-day program, right?
Hmm.
And then through our, again, everything we do experience based. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? We'll go with that. That's what everybody's used to. That's, hey, we can get it done. And
Sure.
early on, like say the first year,
Hmm.
almost into the second year, but the majority of the warriors coming through would extend, right? They would extend to 6 weeks. So instead of doing 4, they would end up doing 6.
Right.
So 6 weeks became pretty much the norm, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody that was really wanting to get better and to
Mm-hmm.
really that needed it, they were extending. So it's like, hey, why don't we just, like, if we know that's the minimum number, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, that should be the number. So that's the beauty of what we do, that again is different than, I won't say all, because I don't know all the other treatment centers, but
Sure.
when a warrior comes to Warrior's Heart,
Mm-hmm.
and they sign up to go through a 42-day program, we are dedicated and committed to
Mm-hmm.
providing them for 42 days.
Mm-hmm.
If they make that commitment and come in and do that, they got
Right.
us for 42 days. The reason
Nice.
why that's important is that some other places that wouldn't, like, if their insurance stops or the money comes off, like, they have to leave the program, right?
Right.
So that's another thing. But because we're warrior led, Warriors Healing Warriors, like, hey, we're not gonna, hey, sorry, Winston, you're 35 days into your
Exactly.
treatment, but
Yeah.
hey, the money's off, so you got to go. Like,
Mm-hmm. Who
like,
does that? Right? Yeah. Well, anyways,
we won't.
we
That's all
won't.
we'll
Yes, that's
say is
all.
we won't. So, and
Exactly.
the other thing I want to talk to you about, like, to
Mm-hmm.
really put it into context for the reason why it's 42 days, because I get it. It seems like a long time, right? But the thing is that, that first, I've seen it with almost every warrior that comes through, because of the drinking and the drugging, there's that brain fog, that's
Mm-hmm.
going
For
on. And
sure.
it's usually anywhere between 4 and 8 days,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, they're just, physiology is not right yet. Like, it needs that time, some good food, some actual rest, some hydration, what I mean? Like, just
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
doing good, healthy stuff. And then the light bulb comes on, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
just say that we're at 35 days now, right? So we've got
Mm-hmm.
35 days to produce a sober, confident warrior, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're a training program. That is
We are.
what
Yeah.
we do. So
That's
when you
right.
come in, so a training program produces a result. So you go through our training, you come out a sober, confident warrior. And so to provide context, especially with this population, it's like, so imagine that if I had to take a civilian, someone right off the street, never,
Yeah.
no military experience or anything,
Yeah.
and I had 35 days to train them, and on that 36th day, they were going to
Mm-hmm.
be in a gunfight for their lives,
Yeah.
what would I teach them?
Exactly.
And number one, I'd say I need more time, right?
Mm-hmm. For
But
sure.
then number two, I would say, like, okay, I have to give them the tools that will enable them to survive and thrive
Mm-hmm.
combat. Because not if they get into a gunfight, on that 36th day, they are going to
They're
be
going
in
to
a
be in one.
gunfight for their
Yeah.
lives. So I have to be able to confidently tell them, if you do what I have asked you to do, you will survive.
Right.
So that's when it comes to that 42 days.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean? That's why, again, it seems long. Well,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it is longer than a 28-day program, but
That's right.
again, back to, already established that 28 is not a real number anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes back to, again, experience base, is 42 days is that sweet spot minimum,
Right.
what I mean, to really get trained up, get some reps in, and then leave that front wire, and because on that day, whenever our warriors leave Warrior's Heart, when they clear that gate,
Mm-hmm.
they're in a gunfight for their lives now,
They
because
are.
there's booze right there in the corner, and
Yeah.
and there's drugs right on down the street.
Old
It's all
friends,
good.
old contacts, like there's
Yeah.
everything, right? It's a minefield, really. It
So
is.
that's why it's, I mean, a lot of people say, hey, when you're dealing with chemical dependencies,
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with PTS, and you're dealing with TBI, they'll say that, man, that is a complex issue. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very complex issue. We say that's Tuesday afternoon at Warrior's Heart. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it that, yeah, to the outsiders, it would be
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's just so much going on. And it
Yeah.
is a lot going on. But the thing is that we've all been through it.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? So we're not just, and again, everything that we do is experience based. That's why we
Yeah.
can confidently say, if you come to Warrior's Heart, receive your training, and then leave Warrior's Heart and execute that training in your
Mm-hmm.
life, we
Yeah.
guarantee that, what I mean, you'll be successful. If,
If
just like any training program, if you don't do what you're trained to do,
that's right.
then I
You know.
can't tell you the outcome. But if you
Yeah.
do what you're trained to do, I can tell you the outcome every time.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Tom. So another one that came in, Tom, was what treatment modalities do you find more effective for trauma processing?
So the main, so we do, so when it comes to, we'll talk trauma. So
Sure.
the cool thing is that most people don't understand. So I'm like the poster boy for this crap, right?
Hmm.
I've got, childhood traumas. I've got alcoholism at a young age. I've got recovery. I've got PTS. I've got mild TBI. So,
Right.
hey,
The spectrum.
I, I, I got you. So what most people don't understand, which means, and I've been practicing the 12 steps for over 27 years now, right?
Mhm.
So the thing is what most people don't understand is, yes, we do have licensed trauma counselors, and we address that piece, but also you need to understand that the 12 steps and the process of the 12 steps
Mhm.
also assist in processing trauma.
Right.
So between those two things, uh, so I just wanted to touch on that.
Sure, please. Yeah.
So just how the 12 steps, like when you go through those 12 steps, all of them, 1 through 12,
Hmm.
you really have to process a lot of traumas that come through in your life, and you
Yeah,
do
for
that,
sure.
in a spiritual way. And then whenever it comes to the other side of the house, we'll call it, where it's like, no kidding, me and you sitting down, we're going to process some trauma now.
Hmm.
We use the talks, we use the writing, we use all of our counselors are rock stars,
Hmm.
right?
They're rock stars. They really are. They
Because
go above and beyond.
it takes a certain counselor to handle the stories
Hmm.
that this population has to say,
Yeah.
right? So the counselors that we have are, they're special,
Mm.
and so the other one of the other, specifically talking about trauma, the main piece that we use on it too, whenever talking about really kind of stopping people from living trauma,
Hmm.
is one of the modalities we use is EMDR. And I've gone through it myself, and it's a proven experience-based modality, and that's the main modality that we use whenever it comes to extensive trauma. A lot of
Hmm.
trauma can be worked out, whether it's in the talk therapy, whether it's working with a clinician. A lot of that trauma, the beauty about Warriors Heart and keeping our population the way that it is, the majority of the magic happens from 2000 to 2300. So what
Hmm.
happens at 2000 and 2300
Yeah.
is that's when everybody's sitting around the fire pit.
Hmm.
That's when folks are playing cards, right? That's when this population does what they do after a
Yeah.
hard day's work,
That's right.
without the alcohol and drugs. That's the only thing missing. But the same things is that we're having those deep conversations, and because we keep it in that population, you can have, say one of the warriors there, he's on day 5, right? He's thinking about like how he's going to get the hell out of here, right?
Hmm.
He's kind of here,
Exactly.
but he's thinking about, should I be here? Should I leave?
Hmm.
Should I go? And then sitting right across from him is a guy that's on his 41st day, and he's going to be leaving here in a couple of days.
Hmm.
So that, we don't call it mentorship, right? In this population, we do what we do, and that's we take care of each other, right?
That's right.
And so that guy or that gal, is looking at his buddy right across the way, and he's like, "Hey, man, I know what you're thinking. I was sitting right there, and I was thinking
Yeah.
of how I was going to get out of here."
Yeah.
It's like, "Hey, man, stay."
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then they start that conversation, and,
Hmm.
hey, this is what happened with me. So, that's really the only, when we call it free time, we keep the days full, and that last meeting ends usually around 20 to
Hmm.
20:30, and lights out at 2300, and that's where, as we all know, this population really thrives, at taking care of each other, sharing stories. We've had folks at Warriors Heart that were in the same battles, overseas, or worked the same
Sure.
blocks, on law enforcement and firefighters, and
Hmm.
EMTs and stuff. So it's just really amazing, all of the magic that happens.
For
And to get
sure.
back to that question of
Yeah.
how do you process trauma, like, psychology is the new kid on the block, right? War and fighting has been going on forever,
Hmm.
right? So what we do at Warriors Heart is, we use all the updated stuff, but there's nothing like the ancient modality. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? We want to talk about modalities. It's like hey, we get better the same way we got sick. We got sick together, we're going to get well together. And we're going
Yeah.
to do it the same way, taking care of each other,
Yeah.
and that's what immediately happens as soon as you get all these folks together.
Fair enough. And actually, a great question to lead into that. This is from our live. And both of I'm going to ask both questions because they're actually very similar.
Okay.
What is available for alumni to stay connected? And this should have been the first part of it, was do you provide any kind of follow-up services to those who complete the program?
Alumni.
And follow up after the
Okay.
program.
I'm just writing it down.
Yeah, sure. So what is available for alumni to stay connected, and what kind of follow-up services do you provide to people who complete the program?
Gotcha. So on the alumni side, that was the beauty of like, again, looking for the silver lining in the dark clouds, like with all the COVID stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It gave us this time, and now this social distancing and everybody's online, and
Mm-hmm.
and how do we still continue doing it? It really gave us a little bit of space and a little bit of bandwidth to really get into, hey, what we can do for our alumni.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, currently we have our alumni page on Facebook. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of folks aren't in social media, so now, thanks to our communications director, we have what's called Warriors Heart Qualified.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's something that we're just getting up and moving
Mm-hmm.
as far as going to be as another hub, and it's our own. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of people are weirded out about Facebook and all, and that's
Yeah.
okay. You know what I mean? Some people, I'm only into it for business stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's, but, it's something that we own. So for the alumni, programming to carry them on. And the beautiful thing is, as far as, we all tell all of our alumni, you can come back for a spiritual recharge.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stay sober, to do that. But,
Mm-hmm.
we have that. But this year we're going to roll out, more for the alumni,
Mm-hmm.
because the last 4 years was all about getting our foundation and everything straight.
And what's been really good about what we've done on site, right? Like, is we understand these are crazy times, so we had actually prepared for this before it all happened, and then it happened, and we're like, oh, thank God that we created this. And so the idea behind it is that we can now do Zoom meetings. In fact, Tom and a bunch of alumni were on their own private lockdown, secure Zoom conference yesterday, doing their meeting, right? And it was fantastic to hear. They'd just come from another session or whatever, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But it gives everybody the ability, if you've graduated, to stay with those brothers and sisters, those friends that you guys made on site. You can stay connected to them through the site, as well as through virtual mediums like this. Mm-hmm. So Tom, just really quickly, because we're running to the top of the hour, and we're going to cut this off at 7. At 1900 hours. We're going to do, let's see, we covered those two. So hopefully those answer the question together. Here's one for you, Tom. How did you recover from the TBI damage after your time, I guess, in your what you were doing in the Army? And then recent research shows that creatine monohydrate is extremely beneficial to those with TBI. And again, these are just taken right from the question. So if we'll
so for me, how I addressed in Mindful of Time is there's a ton I tried. There's not a lot that I haven't tried. The only thing that I don't get into is the hallucinogenic piece, because I'm in recovery.
But yeah, exactly.
Yes. But anyway, I've tried everything from I can't think of the name of it now. It's like the barometric chamber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The chamber dives, I've done that. That didn't work too great for me. It helped parts of my body, but not so much my brain, just because my particular injury. There's a place that I've been to twice. It's called the Brain Treatment Center. And I went to once of it out in LA, and then the other time I went was in San Diego. Absolutely life-changing for me. It increased my quality of life by 30%. First time I went was like 2017, so we're not talking that much long ago. And I really get after my health. Because I actually plan on living longer nowadays, and so, but I can't say enough about the Brain Treatment Center. I know they're not treating right now with all the COVID piece, but that's something, and again, I only speak about things that I've experienced. There's a ton of stuff that is out there. And
Mhm.
if it's working for folks, I'm all about it. I
Mhm.
will only speak about the things that I know that have worked for me.
Yeah, and another thing, you touched on a point, I'm just going to bring it out because maybe some people don't know, is that the food at Warrior's Heart is not you ordered it from some, whatever,
Yeah.
back of the truck dealership. Warrior's Heart food is fantastic. The Chow Hall has, we have the best chefs in town. They want to be there. They're proud to cook meals for their fellow brothers and sisters, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy how good that food is. And what I wanted to say about that is, you were talking about, you want to live a long time. It's also showing our clients that show up that you can eat well and nourish your body and nourish your soul, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not just one thing or another, it's everything. And that's what
Mind,
you're
body,
talking
spirit.
about. Mind, body, exactly. Thank you.
Mind, body, spirit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yep.
Just a couple more questions now, because we are getting to the top of the hour. Let's see. Okay, so here, what is your why? So this came in. What is your why? Why don't we start there? What is your why? And then there's a follow-up question. What
Okay.
is your why?
So my why.
Hmm.
Uh, so the deal is with a warrior's heart. You know what I mean? Warrior's heart's my why, and within that, like, so just kind of chunking it out is so for me, like I said, I've been in recovery since I've been 22 years old, right? Majority of my time in the military. I am super passionate, as you can tell, about sobriety and about soldiers and about law enforcement and about the people that protect us. I'm just super passionate about and about their health, right? So whenever my why behind Warriors Heart, when I was on my own before Warriors Heart, there was only a certain amount of people that I could touch. There's only a certain amount of guys I could
Hmm.
sponsor. There's only a certain amount I could do. Warriors Heart for me became this platform that now, like I said, back to 927. These
Right, right,
folks that have come through. I personally would have never been able to touch that many people without this artifact, this mechanism, this machine called Warrior's Heart to be able,
exactly.
and all the amazing people on there. So
Hmm.
that's what my first why is, like that force multiplication aspect of it,
Right.
because I hate, what I mean, the suffering that
Hmm.
occurs in our population. The second reason for me and Warrior's Heart is I have two sons, and both of those sons more than
Hmm.
likely will be in law enforcement or military. So then, what kind of, and I know what that means, right? To get into this profession, maybe there'll be those guys that can process everything and handle everything on their own, because there's a lot of folks that are in this profession that can do that. But
Hmm.
maybe there end up being guys like me that
Okay.
need help. And so, what kind of a dad would I have been if I didn't create a place for them to come? So
That's
that's my
right.
personal why.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Tom. Second follow-up to that was, it says, why did you begin Warriors Heart? But I know it's a group effort between you, Josh Lannon, and Lisa Lannon, and of course
Yeah.
you, Tom Spooner. So can you tell us how that came about? Just in a brief, I know it's a long story, but in a brief capsule.
Yeah, so it's super brief. You know what I mean? Josh and I met uh, whenever I was conducting tactical training, at for folks called YPO, and
Hmm.
we met at that event. I found out about who he was. He found out who I was. He was passionate about helping this population. I was too. The thing about Josh and Lisa, they had extensive um, years in the field. Already
Hmm.
had like 15 years in high quality, high level of care, so they knew how to run a healing center, right? And then I knew all the things that I knew
Hmm.
from everything that I had been through. So
Yeah,
I brought all of that piece to the table. So like any good team, they can do what I can't do, and I can do what they can't do.
exactly.
And so that's what makes this team. And we have the same values and we have the same goals. You know what I mean? And that's why. And this is the hardest mission
Hmm.
outside of when I was in the military.
Yeah.
It's the hardest population. It's the hardest mission. It's like that whole mission of, hey, chances of success are very low.
Yeah,
More than likely, you're not going to make it. It's like, yep, I'll take that one.
exactly.
And Josh and Lisa are the exact same way. And we're amazing partners and amazing friends and our
Hmm.
families and everything.
And wasn't there one point where you guys were all together and you kept seeing these stats pop up. I mean, you came from your side and Lisa came from law enforcement and you know, everybody did their thing. But it was like, you know, nobody was there to help. That was the thing. Nobody was there to help, you know,
Yeah.
in a grand capacity, right? Like the way
Yeah.
that you guys had seen it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the time, you know, I mean, that was when veteran suicide rate was 22 a day.
Hmm.
That's just on the vet. That's not talking about the firefighters, the law enforcement. That's just the veteran suicide
Hmm.
rate, you know. So it was, that's the thing with us is like, hey, yeah, we're not going to allow that to happen. You
That's
know,
right.
we're going to do something about that. And that's something that we did. It's called Warriors,
Hmm.
you know, and it's a collective effort of us.
Okay. So just two more questions before we wrap up. And I'm just going to use them from what we have here. So we have, um, let's see, which one should we do? There's three, but I'll just do two. So what is Warriors Anonymous? How about that?
Okay, so Warriors Anonymous, the cool thing about Warriors Anonymous, it is so our clinicians,
Hmm.
again, back to our rockstar clinicians, you know, and everything is like, hey, we need to come up with something for this population, right? So Warriors, I know we're running out of time. Warriors Anonymous is a specialty meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. So what that means is it's like, hey, it's a sanctioned AA 12-step meeting, right? But it's a specialty meeting, so they might have some that are for female, you know, hey, a women only meeting or a men
Hmm.
only meeting. Well, this is warrior class only meeting, so it's a
Hmm.
specialty meeting that follows the steps and traditions, you know, that are in the 12-step recovery program.
Exactly. And we have time always. We have extra time if we want to talk about that. But you can actually get more information about Warriors Anonymous at warriorsheart.com. You'll find it under resources. You'll find Warriors Anonymous right there. And you can download the documentation and all that. Again, you guys can reach us at 1-866-423-0801. But I'm going to do two more. The last question for you is, drum roll. Okay, actually, this one's a good one. So we left this one to last. I wanted to put this out to you. What's your favorite part of being at Warriors Heart or being a part of Warriors Heart? What is your favorite part? And I know there's a lot, but can you nail it down to one? And if not, that's
Yeah,
okay.
no,
Okay.
the one thing, like I said, about being, it gives me the thing that I've always needed,
Hmm.
and that's purpose, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I have and love my family. They provide me, you know what I mean, with that purpose of my life to be a good husband, to be a good father, right?
Hmm.
That's a lot to lot to do
It
right
is.
there. But then whenever it comes to professional aspect and to the growing aspect, and you know, I spent most of my life in the military, you know what I mean? So I only understand taking care of the troops, you know, health and welfare of the troops and mission first, you know.
Hmm.
So I needed a mission and I needed purpose. Warriors Heart provides me with that purpose.
Okay.
Maybe because I'm still in the fight as far as whenever it comes into the fight of the war at home.
Hmm.
You know, so I mean, I'm an old broken dude that didn't die. You know what I mean? So that means,
And
so
we're
that means,
grateful that you didn't.
yeah. So that means my job is to teach now. That's what old warriors do. You know, is
Hmm.
they teach and they share their experience. So Warriors Heart, you know, gives me that space with my peers to be me. You
Hmm.
know, I can be myself. I can be a warrior. I can
Sure.
be in recovery. I can talk about spirituality. I can talk about killing. I can talk about everything that means me in
Hmm.
an environment that I'm safe and
Right.
I'm with my own, you know,
Exactly.
and that's not a hit on anybody else's, but everybody has their own little clique, you know.
Yeah,
Everybody has the place where they feel comfortable, you
definitely.
know, and that's what Warriors Heart provides.
Awesome. Cool. Well, look at that. Right on the dot. You're so good with your timing. It's like a special
Yeah.
ops operation.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
guys.
planned it. That was planned. I
No,
planned the
yeah,
whole thing.
completely planned. Don't, yeah, right. And nothing works out that perfect except when you're with Tom. So, anyways, guys. So again, you know, my name is Winston Bromley, the communications director here at Warriors Heart. We totally appreciate you guys being on here and taking the time. We know there's lots of other things you guys could have been doing. You could have been watching Netflix or, you know, other stuff like that. But we do appreciate it. The stuff we do here matters. You know, reach out to us at warriorsheart.com. If you want to donate, reach out to the Warriors Heart Foundation, which is at warriorsheartfoundation.org. It's also linked right from warriorsheart.com. But for myself, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. We're going to be doing this once every month. I think we'll have a discussion about this after this. And again, you know, this is our first one, so we appreciate that. But Tom, I'm just going to pass it to you. You know, I look up to you. You're one of my mentors in many ways. You know how much I love you, man. You're like, every time we talk, we have so much growth. I appreciate being around you. And I think, as you said, you're that guy who you're the old warrior who's there and helping us, guide us, And so I just want to say thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, Winston, and thank you for providing me the same, man. And then back to everybody else, hey, y'all, let us know if you want us to keep doing this. Like
Yeah,
I said,
exactly.
we'll force it. We're going to force it on you every month if you allow us to. But hey, if we want to do it more, if we want to do something else,
yeah,
let's have that interaction.
Yeah, and so yeah, we probably will be doing this shortly. Like every month is what I'm thinking. And again, we'll take lots of questions. There's so many things we can talk about. Yeah, God knows, Tom and I can talk for days on stuff. So anyways, with that, thank you guys so much. We totally appreciate, again, you guys being here. We have a mission. We're open. Just push it out to everybody. We are open, right? Like, we're an essential service. We're here to help those who can't help themselves right now, right? That's what we're here for. So everybody stay safe. I appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tom. Okay, take care.
Thanks, Winston.
Definitely. Bye now.
Bye-bye.